Willie D Live.
What's up, family? Diddy's former assistant, Capricorn Clark, who once reportedly dubbed him the devil, could tell the prosecution everything they need to know about the jealousy that sparked his break-in of Kid Cudi's home. Capricorn's testimony is set to kick off the resumption of Diddy's Manhattan sex trafficking trial. Kid Cudi testified last week that Capricorn called him in December 2011 to warn him that Diddy had forcibly entered his Hollywood Hills home after learning that Cudi had been dating Diddy's on and off girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. Cudi told jurors that he had been with Cassie at the Sunset Marquis Hotel when they received a phone call from Capricorn, who he said sounded very scared and on the verge of tears. Cudi testified in federal court that Capricorn said Diddy and his security had forced her to come with them for the break-in. Prosecutors revealed at the start of the trial that jurors would hear about Diddy allegedly waking up an employee in the middle of the night and forcing her and his security to take them to the home of a man who was dating Cassie. Capricorn knows a lot. She could also testify that Cassie shared an email with her saying that Diddy was threatening to release sex tapes of her and was going to kill her and Kid Cudi. Obviously, the defense could say, well, what stopped him? Why y'all still alive? You know? The funny thing about this court stuff is that for every direct, there's a cross-examination, right? And for every cross-examination, for every cross, there's a redirect. You dig? Anyway, Capricorn, she knows a lot. She was Diddy's assistant. And this is why I'm very careful about having people around me. Not that I'm even doing anything criminal, because I'm not. I'm a law-abiding citizen, law-abiding tax-paying citizen, right? But the thing is, you want to keep your private stuff private. And when you have people around you that's that close to you, you got to be able to trust people. Now, obviously, one could argue that, well, once you cross that line of doing something criminal, then all bets are off. And if Diddy indeed pulled a gun on that woman and forced her to show him and his bodyguard where Cudi lived, then all bets are off. That's a different story, man. Now you threatening my life. You putting a gun to my head? You pulling a gun on me? I don't know if the gun was to her head, but she pulling a gun on me? Nah, man, you know. And I could see why she would be mad at Diddy in that case. And if she is really mad at Diddy, well, we know at once upon a time she was mad at him, but if she's still mad at Diddy, then that's a big obstacle for Diddy to overcome, because she knows a lot, just like the other two personal assistants who testified for the government. She knows a lot. And I think that she was probably even closer to Diddy than the other two were. The other two didn't say anything about being kidnapped by their boss. Can you imagine your boss kidnapping you? Capricorn, if she testifies that she was actually kidnapped, she corroborates Cassie's version of events and Cudi's version of events, that's going to be a huge obstacle to overcome. Kidnapping? That's RICO. We've been talking about we ain't heard nothing RICO yet. That's RICO. The drugs, one could argue that, nah, ain't nobody force you to take no drugs and all that. But if they talking about drugs was being moved from one state to the other or brought in from one state to the other, or they getting on a plane and they're traveling and they're using drugs, now you got something different going on. And so that's the funny thing about these trials. We knew that this was going to be about a 7.5 to 8 week trial. So we knew that the prosecution was going to make their move at some point. And it looks like they're now trying to make their move. They're done with trying to establish how bad of a guy Diddy was. It seems like they're done trying to establish, his character. Now they're trying to get into his actions, his actual actions that supports a RICO case. But I have a problem with that, fam, because when one person is charged, it's only one person being tried for a RICO, and everybody else gets immunity. What deterrent is there in place to stop others from involving themselves in RICO cases in the future? Knowing that, look, I'm not the big guy. As long as I'm not the big fish, I'm safe. I can do whatever I want to do. I can help this guy commit crimes. I can help this guy move dope. I can help clean up the crime. I can do anything I want because I'm not the big fish. They want the big fish. So all I got to do is when the heat get hot in the kitchen is to give up the big fish. Tell everything I know and I'm off the hook. Even though I was culpable, even though I was just as guilty in many instances. I was just as guilty, but I get to go home to my family because I cut a deal. That just don't seem right to me, fam. I get it that the government needs witnesses. The true part about it is, in most cases, if law enforcement, if they didn't have witnesses, they wouldn't have a case. So they heavily rely on witnesses to help them build their cases. In this situation, the witnesses are the people who was closest to Diddy. And I get it, fam, that this is a criminal trial and all that stuff, but I just, in my mind, like, man, you take your bitter with your sweet. All of these people was along for the ride. As long as the money was good, as long as they was getting what they wanted, every single person was cool with that. Capricorn was cool with that too. She was on the payroll. All these people were on the payroll. All of these people, with the exception of Kid Cudi, was benefiting from Diddy in some way, in some capacity. With the exception of Kid Cudi, so far, it was Kid Cudi, the security guard from the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles, and it was one of those experts, the female expert, what did she testify to? I can't remember, but in any event, all these employees, the PAs, they all benefited. And most of them took part in this so-called criminal enterprise. For them to walk away unscathed, for them to just be able to get money and write books, go on podcast. No, fam, they got to pay too. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I do not think that's a fair deal. That's also cheating the other victims, the people that they victimized. Because you can say Cassie is a victim, but what about the people she victimized? She don't have to pay for that? You can say that his assistants, his personal assistants, were victims. But what about the people they victimized? Even Don Richard was accused of victimizing her ex-boyfriend Q from day 26. She was accused by him of giving him a red pill that was handed to her by Diddy. Dude said he woke up in some basketball shorts and totally disoriented. He said, he was confused and he got phone cameras in his face. woke up in the basement of Diddy's house. And he said it took him a while. He had to go see doctors and stuff to get his motor skills and his cognitive skills back. You know? But Don denied all allegations. But still, she's got allegations levied against her. But she's not on trial. Nobody's on trial but Diddy, the man with all the money. I get it. If he's guilty, he's guilty. And you get what you get. You know how this legal system is made up. That's the shame, because Diddy was a beacon of hope for a whole lot of black people. Whole lot of them. For him to have that much money, that much influence, he really pioneered the idea of linking up with brands. You know, like I'm talking about getting to the big money with brand deals. You know, you can say that he was a trailblazer in that regard. And to see his money on the chopping blocks, to see this man go from a billionaire to 400 million and possibly to zero, because the feds are trying to take all of his money now. They want all of his money. They're saying even if the money isn't tied to a criminal enterprise, they can still take it. I don't know how, but they're saying they can still take it. 400 million. Anyway, fam, Capricorn Clark is on the stand today, and she is testifying. So we'll see what that look like. Give me a thumbs up if you think her testimony would be effective. Thumbs down if you say, nah, man, she ain't gonna say nothing that we ain't already heard before, and therefore it's not gonna have any significant impact. Drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. No more talk.